everyone, I'm Samantha T, and welcome to another Fresh Fiction Video Book Club. I have been looking forward for today's interview for so long because we are talking with the great Elizabeth Boyle, who I was counting back and realized we have known each other for more than 20 years now.
Oh yeah.
Close to
Yeah.
25. And
Yeah.
it's been quite a while.
We were in like elementary school.
Of course. Yes, exactly. That was what it was. Yes. But Elizabeth is a New York Times, USA Today bestselling, multiple award-winning author who many of us know her from her Regency novels, which are some of my favorite ones. But also tonight talking about her latest release, Oh, Little Town of Bethlehem. Welcome, Elizabeth, and it is so good to see you.
Good to see you guys all. First of all, I'm going to apologize because I am on vacation. Actually, I am in Hawaii. So I had to do I know everybody hates me right now. So sorry, but, but I had to do this I finally just Googled, okay, if it's 7 p.m. in Texas, what time is it in Honolulu? So I can figure out the I am so on vacation mode. Plus, we were out walking, and then I realized what time it was, and I had to run back. And it is humid here today, so I'm like, ugh. So you're getting me in my vacation state.
I'm even more appreciative than of you joining. And I understand the time zone lookups. I'm often doing that to figure out where things are in different areas. You're not getting sympathy about Hawaii because currently here in Dallas, it is cold and rainy, and it has been nasty all day.
Oh, it's been horrible back home in Seattle. And my husband and I are like, oh, wow, how sad. It's 81. But I will say it did really pour rain this morning. But I wasn't sad about that because we took this huge hike yesterday and I like crawled to the car and I was like, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. I'm reading all day.
Is that like the mix of your typical vacations? Do you want to get out and do stuff and see things?
Yeah.
And then also read.
We go hiking, we go swimming when we're here, just about every day in the ocean. And then I just all of a sudden will go, okay. And then I just spend a whole day like sitting in the pool and reading a book. And I've gotten through 3 since I got here. So it's wonderful. I never get that kind of time to read. And this is so amazing. I'm just making this big dent in my DVR. So yay!
I also know that you're a big knitter. And you've got to keep your hands, see right there, of course, yes. So with that, you're keeping your hands occupied, but do you listen to audiobooks when you're knitting?
Usually I'm watching something on TV. Yeah. Somebody mentioned earlier that they were watching The Empress, and I've been watching that as well. Fascinating. Yeah, something like that. Or I will sometimes just sit and stare off to space and knit because it's just relaxing.
Mm-hmm. Are you thinking storylines while you're doing that? Okay.
Yeah. It keeps. I'm kind of a person that needs to keep their hands busy. I need to be doing something, or I get.
Well, we just chatting. For some of our readers and listeners who might be new to you, imagine that. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you first get started writing?
Oh boy, I think I came out a writer. I wanted to be a writer. In fact, my first book, which I wrote when I was like 4 or 5, was Betsy in Christmas Land. So I was destined to write another Christmas book, clearly. I even self-illustrated it. My mother kept it forever. Oh my gosh, it resembles the Wizard of Oz, but there you go. And but then I fell in love with romance when I was a teenager. My mother had always read Gothics, and we would go to the used bookstores, and this was the 70s, and so I was picking up books like Bertrand Small and the old bodice rippers. And my mother had no idea what I was reading until I went to like college, and she was short on books, and so she went down and grabbed one off my shelf. And when I got back from college, she was like, how long have you been reading these? I said, you knew I was reading them. What's the deal? But I've always loved history, and I loved historical romance. And so I started writing historical romance, and I sold my first book to Dell. And then the career just kept going. I've had one of those really blessed, lucky, in the right place, the right time career that's just continued for what I think a little town in Bethlehem is either my 25th or 28th. I can't remember. Yeah, it's been another Christmas analogy. It's been a wonderful life.
How did you transition to writing professionally, though? Because I know you had a really interesting previous career.
Yeah, I was actually just telling somebody about it earlier. I worked as I was a paralegal for years, but then I did a lot of investigative work as a paralegal. So then I went to work for Microsoft, and I was one of their piracy paralegals, and I worked with Interpol and the FBI and US Customs and the RCMP up in Canada and various legal agencies all around basically the world, and helped build either criminal cases, or if the criminal case would not go through, then a civil case for counterfeiting and other forms of software piracy. So it was really fascinating. I traveled a lot. I went to England. Most of my territory was Canada, so I do know winter because I've been in practically every Canadian province in the middle of winter, and it's cold up there. And it is really cold up there. When they hand you the plug-in for your car, and I was like, what is this for? And the guy goes, don't worry, the guy at the hotel know what to do with it, because you literally have to plug your car in when you park it outside to keep the engine from freezing. So just
Cool.
wild. Fun though.
But your first book, didn't you win it?
Yeah, I did. I sold it. Well, I sold it via a contest. It was the Dell Diamond debut, and you had to send in the first 3 chapters and the synopsis. And I had done that with the full intent of finishing the book before they announced the finalists. But again, traveling, working for Microsoft, didn't have a lot of time, worked when I could, was about, I don't know, pretty, not too far into the book. And then I was in New Jersey, and I had called my husband because my flight got canceled. It was snowing outside. And that was back when there wasn't cell phones. You had to line up for a payphone. And so I finally get my chance at the payphone, and I called him, and he goes, you got this letter from Dell. And I was like, I did? What does it say? And he's out in the car. And I said, go get it. So I stood there and fake talked on the payphone while he ran out into the parking lot where he worked, dug it out of his car, came back and read it to me, and it said, you're a finalist. And at this point, I think I had 2 months to finish the book, plus work my job, plus everything else. And so I wrote like a crazy woman. I was getting up at 4:00 in the morning, and I would write until 8, and then I would drive to work and work until 6, and then I would come home and write for another couple hours. I was getting no sleep. I was just crazy, but I was determined to get this book in on time. But got to the last weekend, and it had to be in. It was like, what was it? It was February. I think it was like Friday, not a Friday. It was a Monday. And so I started checking with the overnight services because of pre-internet, overnight services out of Seattle to get it to New York. So one was you had to have it in Friday by 6 p.m. One of them was Saturday by 5 p.m. And I'm like, I'll make the Friday. Did not make the Friday. So Saturday, this friend of mine came over, and she is like editing pages as I'm writing them and printing them out. And in the middle of this, my printer is dying. It's just a disaster. And the clock is ticking. My husband went to work. He wasn't even in the house. He was like, I am not staying here today. Smart man. So he comes home, and it's all gone to hell. And I'm like, oh no, I've lost. There's no way to get it there on Monday until I've lost. I've missed my FedEx flight. It's over. And I just broke down, started crying. And he's coming in, and I'm crying, and he goes straight to the phone, and I hear him talking to somebody. I'm like, he's probably talking to my mother to take me back. And no, he's cashing in his airline miles, and he took a red eye Sunday night to fly to New York because my boss had told me if I took any time off for this book nonsense, I was going to be fired. So he flew it that he got on a midnight flight. It was him, his little backpack, and my manuscript in the backpack. And he looked like the kid from Sleepless in Seattle when he flies from Seattle to New York. He'd never been to New York before, had no idea what he was doing, just had his address. I took a cab to Dell's offices, and oh my gosh, it was so amazing. And he delivered it. And then we had to sit for 6 months and wait, absolutely wait for the announcement, which was at the RWA, the Romance Writers of America luncheon in Dallas, actually. And so I got to that luncheon and I was so nervous, because here's a 1 in 5 chance to have your dream come true and your book published. And I'm sitting in the back with my friends, and they made us come forward and sit at the front table with all the finalists. So everybody's just dagger eyeing everybody because we all want that win. Meanwhile, back at my table where I've emptied a seat, this woman came and sat in it. And it was my critique group there. And they looked over and saw the woman's name tag. And they said, the minute they saw her name tag, they knew I'd won. Because the woman who sat down in my seat had judged me in a contest a few years earlier and written on it in red Sharpie, your writing is unprofessional and you will never publish. And when she sat down in my seat that day, my friends looked at it and said, oh, karma has come true. And so it was just amazing. And then I won. And after that, the books were off to the races. It was just amazing.
Oh, wow.
That's the long version. Everybody else is like snoozing.
I don't think I knew that aspect of your husband.
Yeah.
Flying and cashing in his miles to go take
that. He called in sick from New York. And then he just basically, he walked around Central Park and caught a cab back to the airport and was home by 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
I know, crazy.
It's fantastic. Oh, okay. All right, because I'll go off on a whole other tangent with that. How did you spend, because I'm watching the clock here too, because we could talk forever.
I know.
But so many of your books have been set in the Regency period, including one of my favorites, in the Dasher Chronicles, Something About Emily. I've always told you it's one of my favorites, along with that whole series.
Too. It is one of my favorite too.
But how did you then pivot, and why did you pivot from the Regency, and even though you had a couple of paranormals in all of those, to the West? First, because you had Chessie's Wedding, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did that.
The Bethlehem series.
I did Chessie's Wedding just to see if I could do it. It was a short story contest that was open, and I thought, I'm going to write a short story set in this time period and see if I can do it. See if the voice will work. And it finaled. So I was like, okay, I've got the voice. I can do this. But the story idea was what made me pivot. This is a story, an idea for a book that I had for 14 years. And it just kept sitting in the back burner. And I would work on it and I would pull it out and I would do research when I could. And I kept playing around with the plot and how I wanted to do it. And then finally, when I got to the end of my last contract with Avon, I really just felt like I had said everything I wanted to say in many ways. You get to a point in your life where you just say, okay, I've told these stories. I want to try something else. And I had also, at that point, when I was in my early 50s, had met a new group of friends that became just like sisters to me. And in many ways, those friendships really just mean the world to me. And I realized in many ways how our friendships are some of the most important relationships in our life. And it was also a point in my life when my best friend, we've known each other for 44 years, she got divorced from someone who had separated her basically from everyone. And she divorced him and came back into my life. And having those friendships and the sense of, she had been afraid that I wouldn't forgive her. And I was like, are you kidding? when you love someone like a sister, there's nothing that can keep you apart. So this is, and somebody in the reviews said this, it's a love story to friendship, because you never know when you're going to find friendship or friends, and you can do it at any point in your life. And I wanted to share that experience of finding friendship outside of your comfort zone with different people and different ideas and building those bridges. And so that's what kind of was the catalyst. And I was facing, the kids were older, I had more time. I told my husband it would only take me 2 years. It took me 7.
Because there was definitely a lull there. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah, it
we
was 7 years.
didn't have that time.
But I had finished the book. It's long. It's 600 pages if anybody has sat down and read it. It's long. It's, as my friends call it, it's chonky. It's a chonky book, but it's the chonky kind of story that you just can't put down. I got a hate mail the other day. I'm up at 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm still reading, and I've got to get up and blah, blah, and I can't put it down. I'm like, yay. But so is that. And it was a story I had to tell. It wasn't going to leave me alone until I wrote it. And I was just lucky enough to be in a place in my life where I could take that chance. So
it's only the first book in the series, because it's going to be
the first book in the series, and I'm looking at writing at least 2 more, but they won't be as chunky. I have learned my lesson. I've always written long, but this was a little too long. I should be writing fantasy novels. I just read a fantasy novel and it's super, and it is longer than mine. And I was holding it up for my friends on a Zoom chat going, see, bigger than my book. I have not written the biggest book. I just saw a question about audio. I'm working on that. I'm not sure when, but I am working on that. I have somebody we're talking who will do something to get the audio going.
Because of course, our readers and listeners, we read books, we listen to them, even the big chunky ones, right? We want to get them in all the different formats.
I love chunky books. I am so happy when I can settle in with a 600 or 700 page book and just live in it for a week.
And when it's part of a series, even more, because that there is still more of that story and world that you can, again, settle into and just visit that entire realm for everything. And I think that's one of the interesting things with this book is, think of it necessarily as paranormal.
Yeah, I know it's so hard to explain
different things.
It's a little bit of magical realism, I think. Yeah. And just that little time travel element, more like Outlander in a way, where the person is cast back in time. How do you adapt? And like in Outlander, Claire was very prepared for this. In my book, my character has been starring in a television series that it's like she stepped onto the set of her show. And so she's prepared for it, but no one is really prepared for going back in time, I think.
No matter how much we all might wish to do that sometimes.
Yeah, try it.
The reality would just slap us in the face.
Yeah. One point.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say at one point my character, she just wants to settle in and do some online shopping if she can't.
But with having focused on, like you said, having this book just constantly living in your head for so long and really working to get this out, and it being, yes, there's the time travel element, but really it's a book about the friendships and the empowerment and discovering all of these things. With all of this journey that you've been on for this book, and especially now considering what you were saying about your group of friends and reconnecting, what has been the favorite part of this story for you? What is that most meaningful nugget?
It's just rising to that challenge. I didn't even know if I could write this book, in all fairness, because it's 3 stories twined together as a writer for the nitty-gritty of writing, and being able to just draw on everything I learned writing romance and the challenge of it. But the characters, they live in my head. They wrapped around my heart. Part part, I think the biggest stress was making sure I told their stories the best way possible, that I gave them and dug into their lives and discovered things about. There's one part, I was 3/4 of the way through this book, and I was writing along one day, and Ninny, one of the characters, just looked at me and said, "I lied about something very important in the book." And I was like, "She lied? Oh, what do you mean she lied?" And I started working through it as I was writing and realized she had lied about. And I realized I had foretold that all the way along through the book. It was all there. It was just these layers of story kept coming up and rising up. And I was like, this is just, and it got deeper and deeper. And of course it got bigger and bigger. The characters, I love all of them. Even the ones that are just horrible, I love them dearly. I would move to Bethlehem and settle in and have my little house and just be part of all of it. And in the research I did for the books, I tried to make the town as authentic as I could. Christmas time, the holidays, everybody came to town. There was so much social whirl going on between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It was like every day something was happening. So that was really something that I learned, that it was surprising, but it worked for the book great because it gave me points to plot to, or events to plot to. So the story could have that real honest feel to it.
You sound different talking about this book.
I love this book. When writers say they want to write the book of the heart, that is my book of my heart. I poured my heart into that book, and I love it. And not everybody gets to do that.
I think with some of your past books, you had such a variety of characters and different stages in their lives. And again, I go back to the Bachelor Chronicles, of where you had older, this is a second chance, so that you had young, and again, how the stories evolved. But you really do sound different talking about this entire process in this book and these characters.
It was such a learning experience. And it was, as a friend of mine who writes science fiction says, she leveled up. She's into gaming, and you just had to level up for this book. And I'm like, okay, I'm not too sure what that means, but it sounds good.
Speaking of games, I want to switch over to what we call our fresh fiction facts. Okay. These are meant to be some rapid fire questions off the top of your head. We'll see if you stump you. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it happens.
It will.
Who would you most want to be stuck in an elevator with?
Temple. From my, that is my favorite hero of all my books. I just
if you could go, if you could go back in time and visit your ancestors, or could you go into the future and meet your descendants, which one would you rather?
Word, I think. Yeah, I would like to see how the grandkids are, when I have grandkids. I don't have any yet, but I would like to see their lives. I would hope that there's still a world and everything there for them too.
What childish thing do you feel that you still do as an adult?
Lick the spatula when I make a cake.
Right? Forget all these warnings that we're not supposed to do that.
Oh, whatever.
I gotta do that.
Live.
What terrible movie do you legitimately enjoy watching?
Legitimately love writing. What do I watch over and over again? There's a few. Oh, it's one of the Marvel movies, The Eternals. Now, everybody hated that movie, but I absolutely love that movie. Again, it's about found family, and it's about those varied relationships. And so I love it for that. I love that movie. I will just put that on. My husband's, oh, you're depressed, huh? Yeah, I know. I like this.
Other than books and yarn,
what
is something that you own an absolutely ridiculous amount of?
Spoons. My grandmother started me collecting spoons, like the little travel spoons, like Yellowstone and things like that. My grandmother traveled extensively, and so I have a collection of old spoons from all over the world. And so when I travel, I always pick up a spoon to add to the collection. And then, it's ridiculous.
Can you still find them? Because my mother had the same thing, because we used to sell Dutch spoons at our import store. And so I got all of those spoons now. And so whenever I'm somewhere and I see people with those collectible spoons, I'm like, oh, hey, I've got those, but I don't see them anywhere when I travel
You
anymore.
don't. So sometimes what I'll do is if I go someplace and I can't find it, I'll go on eBay and find an old one.
Tricky. Okay, that'll work. All right. It's the
Yeah.
different type of souvenir for it, but it
Yeah.
still reminds you. I can go with that. What sitcom family would you have loved to join when you were a kid?
Oh, the Partridge Family.
Are you a secret singer?
No. 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 David Cassidy. As long as I didn't have to be a sister.
Where do you consider to be your ideal paradise?
I'm in it right now.
I was gonna
Kauai.
say.
On the island of Kauai. I love this place. I've been here probably, I don't know, 15 times maybe. This is
Oh, wow.
ridiculous. We come here all the time. It's like our second home. We absolutely love this place. The beaches, the sunshine, the hiking up in the canyons, all of it. Yeah.
And I'm curious on this because I was talking to another friend of mine who also has gone to Hawaii for most of his life for vacation. When you go that often, do you find yourself tending to always go to the same island?
No,
You could always go to and stay in
we
Oahu.
we've come here to Kauai most of the time because it is our favorite. But we've gone to Maui. We went to Maui a lot with the kids because Maui is more set up for kids in many ways. Though now with Lahaina gone, it would be a little different trip. We've talked about recently going back because where we stay is from Lahaina, so it was not damaged in the fire. But what a devastating loss, just horrible. And we had been there about 3 months before the fire, so it just broke our hearts to watch it go. But we've been to Molokai, we've been to Oahu. Jane Porter actually has a place. Author Jane, she has a place in Oahu, and we've stayed with her before. And we have been to the Big Island once. Yeah, we pretty much do the same place, same thing everywhere we go. We spend a ridiculous amount of time swimming in the ocean and then hiking wherever we can in the jungle stuff. And yeah, it's wonderful.
What was your favorite field trip when you were a kid?
Oh, go to the zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still like
the
doing
animals. That. I love them. Yeah.
As a reader, what is something that can throw you off of a book?
If they get their historical facts totally wonky, or, oh, you know what really throws me off? Okay, food totally throws me off because a lot of people don't understand that in historical times you're not eating food out of season. So when I see somebody eating fresh peas in the middle of winter, no, peas don't grow in January in England or something. They'll just have the wrong food for the wrong season. And you did not do your research. So there, I'm just.
Yeah, I always love it when they're eating very luscious looking pineapple.
They can have that because they would have a conservatory. Yeah, they would have it in the orangery or whatever, the conservatory, in a glass conservatory. Yeah, you could grow pineapples or you could grow those sort of things, but you're not growing peas in the conservatory. You're growing the fancy exotic stuff.
Let's see. Okay, let me ask you, because tis the season, right? We got to get a couple of Christmas ones in there. Okay, are you a colored light person or a white light person?
Both. I have both. We put the big old fashioned globy lights on the house, and then we have the little drippy white lights with it. On the tree, it just depends on the year. I look at the tree and decide what the tree wants.
And so when weird. Do you start decorating? Are you one that starts decorating immediately around Halloween, or do you have to wait until after?
No, I wait till Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah. But this year we're going to come home and have to like get it all going pronto.
Are you Christmas Eve presents or Christmas morning?
Christmas morning. Christmas morning, definitely.
What's your favorite Christmas carol or Christmas song?
A Little Town of Bethlehem. Actually, if I have to pick
Okay.
my favorite is Oh Holy Night.
Let's see. Real tree or fake tree?
Real.
What is the best gift that you ever gave to someone?
Oh, it's always hand knit. Yeah. No, my husband would say the best gift I ever gave him, I got him this like tool thing that is small. It's like a tool caddy. And when he opened it, he was like, what is this for? He has used that thing to death. He loves it. And periodically goes, best Christmas present ever when he's
Okay, your kids are older now.
Mhm.
What is your favorite holiday tradition that you are still doing with them?
We put out cookies for Santa.
Oh, wow.
We still do
Full
it.
on decorating or
What?
full on decorated Christmas cookies or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we all sit down and we decorate cookies together one night, a couple nights before Christmas. I just bake a big bunch of sugar cookies and we just sit at the table and frost them and sprinkle them, and it makes a big mess and we have fun.
Gift wrapping or gift bags?
Both. Depends on what it is.
Fruitcake, yes or no?
I actually like fruitcake, but I rarely get it.
Oh, I love a good fruitcake. I know so many people don't, but we have a fantastic one where I grew up, Mrs. King's
Mm.
Yahoo fruit. Oh, it's so good.
My father-in-law loved it, and he was so excited when he found out I liked it too. It justified him buying one.
My mom would actually start making it. So we would buy them and then she'd make
Oh,
fruitcake cupcakes essentially with lots and lots of brandy.
yeah, I used to make them too, and just I would start in October and put them in the back of the fridge, just laden with brandy, and just let them ferment back there. I don't do that
Looking
anymore.
back now, I probably shouldn't have had them because she used so much brandy, but
Hey,
you know.
we survived. Yeah, it's like licking the batter. You survived.
Okay, so when are we going to be able to look forward to book number 2 in the Bethlehem series?
Fingers crossed if life aligns next year. If not, the following.
Okay. Because no, even if it's a chunk, we always want to know when is the next book? When is the
Yeah.
next?
Yeah, and I can tell you what it is about the King sisters if you've read the book. So it's about the King sisters. It's we three kings, of course, and so it's fun. I'm about halfway through it, writing it. So yeah, the holidays have kind of interrupted. My mother passed away a couple months ago, so that's interrupted the writing. You just got to get through life when it happens.
Yes.
So that's part of why we're here. I said to my husband, I don't want to do Thanksgiving this year. And so he said, let's just go play. And I said, that sounds good.
That's what you need to do sometimes.
So we literally ignored Thanksgiving, which was a good plan.
Yeah. Dad and I, because my mom passed during the pandemic from Alzheimer's and dementia. And since then, especially for Thanksgiving, we do what we want.
Yeah.
Need to be turkey, we can eat whatever and binge watch whatever, and it's just a nice extra time off.
I know. I think I'm going to cook a turkey dinner for Christmas this year, just because I missed cooking it. I realized on Thanksgiving, but then I was like, yeah, I can cook it for Christmas.
Of course, the other very important question for our readers and listeners: where is the best place for them to keep up with you, find out what's going on, and know all these other little tidbits that I know that I'm not going to ask about on camera?
Always my newsletter. I send it out. I do send it out frequently. I do a thing called 5 Things for Friday. Usually most Fridays, then if I get really writing, it's every other Friday, but it's like books I'm reading and shows I'm writing and something I found somewhere that I thought was either A, funny, or B, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. You have to have it kind of stuff, and just going on and stuff. So it's readers really love it. People love it. Anybody that reads loves it because it's always got like a new book or a new show to watch or a podcast or something, whatever's going on in my life. It's just, I started it during the pandemic and I just kept going. So you can sign up on my website, elizabethboyle.com. But it's fun. And
Well,
you
I
will
would.
all get
Oh, of
all
course.
the, yeah. Oh, and if anybody's interested, A Little Town of Bethlehem is now on KDP if you read Kindle Unlimited.
This is important information to share.
Yeah,
You needed
yeah.
to.
I know. I know.
I highly encourage all of our listeners and readers to check out this latest book, A Little Town of Bethlehem by Elizabeth Boyle. And if you haven't read her other books, go back. They're some of my favorites. I read them well before I had ever actually met Elizabeth, and then I showed up with all of them to be signed.
I remember that. And it was like, oh, my kind of people.
But the other thing that I will say about you, which I remember we were going to a tea and with some other friends of mine, and we had already met before at another Fresh Fiction event. And I was telling people, you guys don't understand Elizabeth. She's a great author and I enjoy her books, but she lives in Seattle. However, if she lived here, we would all be friends with her. She is just a cool person to hang out with, even other than all of the books and everything that we love to read. So it's just somebody who's really fun. Now, granted, you were paired
Now
up
you're
with
making me
Kathy
cry.
as well.
You make me
You were
cry.
being crazy, but we just had so much fun. And then also at another conference, I was amazed because you took time out and you sat down with me and we just caught up, chatted, separate from everything else. And I'm like, there are hundreds and hundreds of people here, and she's coming to sit down with me. And
Yes, we're friends.
yeah, but it was so cool. And so and see, we went way over today, but and even on your vacation.
Again, chunky.
I know, right? So everyone check out this latest book and the rest of Elizabeth's back list. And Elizabeth, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. Thank you all. And thank you for just being so supportive over the years, Samantha. It just means the world to me. When I got the invite for this, I was like, oh, I will move heaven and earth to be here. Yeah.
Moving heaven and earth means stepping away from the paradise of Hawaii for a little while. So thank
I
you
know.
so
I was
much.
like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late.
So Elizabeth Boyle, A Little Town of Bethlehem. Everyone go check it out.
Thank you.